You think your job is bad. Maybe you stare at spreadsheets until your brain leaks out of your ears. Maybe you fold clothes for people who treat you like a malfunctioning robot. But at least your boss isn't tossing buckets of blood at you. At least you're not ankle deep in sewage. For minimum wage, now, imagine clocking into your medieval 9 to 5, the Middle Ages, where career advancement meant surviving past 30, and where the best paying jobs were usually the most revolting. Forget office perks. Here, your bonus was not catching the plague, your coffee break, pulling lice out of your hair, your benefits package, rotting teeth, back pain, and maybe a good funeral, because in medieval Europe, someone had to do the jobs no one wanted, and those jobs, the ones that kept society running, were filthy, smelly, and unbelievably dangerous. So grab your gloves, hold your nose, and prepare to meet the people whose livelihoods were soaked in blood, bile, and worse. Let's start with the cleanest dirty job of them all. 1. Fuller's earth. Filthy hands * the cloth cleaner's nightmare. You wake before the sun, not because you want to, but because wool doesn't stomp itself. There's no warm bread waiting, no hearty breakfast, just a stone tub filled with cold water, gritty clay, and the crown jewel of your profession. Stale human urine, buckets of it, collected from every tavern, chamber pot, and back alley drunk in town. This is your perfume. Your job is simple if you define simple as 12 hours of barefoot stomping in a reeking soup of filth. You're a fuller, the medieval dry cleaner nobody asked for. Newly woven wool was thick, greasy, and stiff. Step after step, the wool softens, step after step. The smell seeps into your skin. The ammonia eats away at the cracks in your feet, leaving them raw, swollen, and permanently scarred. Your lungs burn, your eyes water, and still, you keep stomping, because if you don't, someone else will, and they'll collect your wage instead. But here's the cruel irony. You're not poor. In fact, you're paid decently well. Why? Because no one in their right mind wanted this job. Pee stomping was practically a premium service. The worse the smell, the better the pay. At the end of the day, you shuffle home half poisoned, stinking like a latrine, your clothes soaked through. This is medieval success. Survival measured not by joy, but by how little you suffer compared to the man next to you. And just when you think nothing could be worse than bathing in fermented waste too. Tanners living in the stench of death, * imagine. Tanning leather. You think your office printer smells bad? Try working with dead animals all day. First, you're handed raw hides, fresh from the slaughterhouse. They're still dripping with blood and clinging with patches of hair and fat. Your tool, a knife. Your job? Scrape it all away. The sound is wet, the texture is nauseating, and the smell. It never leaves you, but scraping is only step 1. Step 2 is worse. You drag those hides into barrels filled with water, rotting flesh, piles of dog dung, and, of course, more urine. It's a recipe that would make even a gong farmer gag. The hides soak for days in this bubbling stew, until they're soft and ready to be beaten, stretched, and dried into leather. Congratulations, you've just created the one material medieval society couldn't live without. Belts, shoes, saddles, armor, book covers, all of it depended on leather. Knights rode into battle on horses strapped with your work. Kings held ledgers bound in your product. Ordinary peasants laced up shoes made possible only because you spent your life marinating in filth. But don't expect applause. Don't expect gratitude. You are a walking stench bomb. The smell clings to your skin, your hair, your very breath. And yet, your wages are higher than most peasants. You eat better, drink better, and have a roof over your head. But what good is bread when no one will share a table with you? What good is money when society treats you like a disease? You're trapped, essential, but despised, a millionaire who can never shower. And just when you think this is the rock bottom of medieval employment, it isn't. Because there's always someone below you, someone who literally worked waist deep in human waste. 3. Gong farmers, the original sewer divers. * picture this. It's midnight. You're carrying a shovel, a torch, and a rope, and you're standing over a cesspit filled with centuries of human waste. Welcome to your glamorous career as a gong farmer. The medieval sewer diver. Gong was just a polite word for excrement. Your entire profession revolves around it. The law required you to work at night, not for safety, but for shame. No one wanted to see you doing this job. You climbed down into a pit, torch flickering against stone walls, the smell wrapping around you like a wet blanket. Your lungs choke. The air is so heavy with methane, one wrong breath could knock you out cold. With your shovel, you dig into the layers of waste, thick, bubbling sludge from hundreds of households. Rats scatter, the torch sputters. Every scoop fills your cart, which you haul back up by rope and pulley. Then you do it again and again and again. Hours of shoveling until the pit is empty, or until you collapse, whichever comes first. Some nights, the work kills you, the fumes suffocate you, the pit floor gives way, and you're swallowed whole. More than one gong farmer drowned in excrement, never to crawl back out. It's not just dangerous, it's humiliating, and yet, here's the twist. Gong farmers were paid shockingly well, danger pay. More than peasants, more than field laborers, even more than some craftsmen. The pay was enough to buy good food, maybe even a decent home. You could cover rent, you could afford ale, you just couldn't afford respect. Imagine sitting at a family dinner and explaining your job. Sorry, I smell like death, but hey, rent's paid. The table falls silent, nobody laughs, and that's medieval life in a nutshell. Survival meant choosing between poverty, disease, or disgust, and if you picked correctly, you lived long enough to do it again tomorrow. 4. Executioners. High pay, low friends, asterisk, you never go hungry as an executioner. Your purse is heavy, your pantry is stocked, and your family doesn't worry about bills, because every criminal condemned to die guarantees you another payday. Your office is the scaffold, and your daily routine, delivering justice by hanging, burning, or beheading, whatever the town requires. You'd think that would make you respected. Instead, it makes you toxic. Priests refuse you communion, neighbors avoid your touch, and good Christian women cross themselves if you walk too close. It's as if death clings to your skin. Still, the pay is excellent, sometimes triple the average wage of a laborer, and that's before the bonuses, the boots, coats, and coins stripped from the condemned. But here's the twist, the very people who hate you also need you. The town's justice system can't function without you, so they tolerate your presence from a distance, so you're often forced to live outside the city walls, in a house set apart like a quarantine. And when it comes time to swing the axe, there's no winning. Some families bribe you to miss the first blow, so the condemned dies quickly. Others hope you botch it, dragging out the agony for revenge. But there's always a line of applicants ready to take your place, because misery might not love company, but it definitely loves a paycheck. 5. Leech collectors. Blood money in the swamps. Asterisk, your office isn't a workshop, a guild hall, or even a stall in the market. It's a swamp, muddy water, buzzing, flies, and the faint stench of decay cling to you every day. And your job title, leech collector, which sounds fancy until you realize the only tool you bring to work is your own body. Here's how it works. You wade into stagnant water and wait. The leeches smell you coming. They latch onto your bare legs, your arms, sometimes even your face. They swell with your blood until they're fat enough to peel off. Then you pluck them free and stuff them into jars. Congratulations, you've just stocked medieval medicine, and make no mistake, demand is sky high. Doctors swear by bloodletting as the cure for everything. Fever, drain blood. Headache, drain blood. Plague? Definitely drain blood. Rich or poor, sick or healthy, everyone ends up feeding leeches at some point. Which means you, the collector, are basically the delivery driver for Europe's favorite medical scam, but the pay comes at a cost. You lose blood constantly. Some collectors pass out in the swamp, collapsing into the very muck they're supposed to work in, and every bite risks infection, festering sores, swollen limbs, fever. Still, the money is decent, especially compared to starving on a farm, and leech collectors were sometimes women and children, pressed into service, because their smaller bodies meant faster feeding. Picture a whole family lined up in the swamp, quietly bleeding for science, The medieval version of take your kid to work day. Your life expectancy? Questionable, your dignity? Gone, but your jars are full, your beer is waiting. And your kids can eat. You bleed, so they don't, in a twisted way. It's a noble sacrifice, or maybe just the most humiliating job description in history. Either way, when you look at your modern desk job, suddenly, spreadsheets don't seem so bad. 6. Plague doctors, hope wrapped in beach-shaped lies. The plague doctor, instantly recognizable, even today, a long black cloak, leather gloves, and the terrifying bird mask stuffed with herbs. To a frightened Vilveliger, you look like salvation. In reality, you're just another gamble with death. Your job is simple on paper: treat the sick, document cases, and collect payment. But treatment is mostly theater. You lance buboes, you bleed patients, you wave aromatic herbs under their noses. Still, the pay is excellent. Town councils hire you with contracts that guarantee food, lodging, and gold. Desperate times mean desperate salaries, but there's a catch. Once the plague passes, towns sometimes refuse to pay. After all, half the people you treated are dead. What are you going to do? Sue them in a courtroom full of corpses? And your patients don't exactly love you either. Families beg for miracles, then curse you when miracles don't arrive. Survivors resent you for failing. And because you're always near the sick, healthy people cross the street when you pass. You are both a symbol of hope and a walking omen of doom. But the real punchline, that famous mask doesn't save you. It's stuffed with rosemary, cloves, lavender, anything that smells strong enough to drown out the stench of decay. People thought foul odors caused disease, so you're basically walking around with a medieval air freshener on your face. The mask protects your nose, not your lungs, and the plague still finds you. So why do it? Because someone had. 2. Because fear itself could be monetized. And because, for a few short months, you were the most important person in town. The man with the bird mask, the figure children still whisper about in the dark. You looked untouchable. But under the cloak, you were just another victim waiting your turn. 7. Knight Squire, glamour, try backbreaking labor, being. A knight sounds glamorous, doesn't it? You picture shining armor, thunderous jousts, and maidens swooning at the sight of polished steel. But as a squire, you get none of that. Your job is to make sure the knight looks good while you live in the mud. Think unpaid intern, but with more bleeding. Every morning starts the same way. You haul your knight's armor from wherever he threw it the night before. It weighs more than a full-grown sheep, and you spend hours scrubbing it down with sand and vinegar until it shines. Weapons? That's your job too. You sharpen swords until your hands blister. You oil lances, polish shields, and replace straps chewed through by rats. You even fix dents and helmets by hammering until your ears ring. By the time the knight actually rides into battle, you're already exhausted. But your real test comes when war drums sound. The knight gallops in, glorious in his armor. You run behind him, dragging his spare gear, stumbling across muddy fields with arrows whistling past your head. Payment? You get room, board, and the vague promise of becoming a knight yourself. Except most squires didn't. Many just aged out, traded bruises for bad knees, and faded into obscurity. All that sweat, and you never even got the title. And yet, people envied you. You were close to power, close to knights, close to glory. From a distance, it looked impressive, but up close? You smelled of horse sweat, burning oil, and fear. Not exactly the stuff of ballads. Still, you told yourself, one day you'd earn that sword. One day you'd wear the armor. One day you'd be the hero in theory. 8. Gravediggers, business was always booming. Picture this, the year is 1348. The plague rolls through town like a storm, and the bodies just don't stop. Someone has to dig the holes. That someone is you. Congratulations, you're a gravedigger. Your work begins at dusk, when the smell is least overwhelming, though it still seeps into your hair, your clothes, and your skin. You dig trenches by lantern light, your hands blistering on the wooden shovel. And when the carts arrive, they don't bring one corpse. Protective gear? Forget it, you're knee-deep in decay, with nothing but rags over your nose. Every cough could be the start of your own funeral. People cross the street to avoid you, not just because of the smell, but because they're convinced you carry the plague yourself. And sometimes, they're right, but here's the twisted perk. You got paid, not well, but consistently. While others lost their livelihoods during outbreaks, you had guaranteed work, because death never takes a holiday. In fact, during epidemics, demand for your services skyrocketed. Some gravediggers even made more money than blacksmiths. Or bakers, you were indispensable and despised. Neighbors muttered behind your back. Children threw stones. Priests blessed themselves when you walked by. Handling the dead made you unclean, both spiritually and physically. And when you finally died, there were no mourners, no prayers, no candles. Another gravedigger just tossed you into the pit. Business as usual. You were both essential and invisible, like the medieval version of a plumber. Everyone needed you, nobody respected you, and the cruelest part? Even with death all around, no one thanked you for keeping the streets from becoming open charnel pits. You kept the city alive by burying its dead. 9. Rat catchers, the unsung soldiers of pest control. If you thought digging graves was risky, try chasing rats in medieval alleys. That's your career. Rat catcher, the job description, hunt vermin before they eat the town's grain or spread yet another plague. Tools of the trade, dogs, traps, clubs, or sometimes just your bare hands. Yes, bare hands. You stalk the streets at dawn, when the rats scurry back from their nightly feasts. The smell of rotting food guides you, alleys overflowing. With scraps, sewage, and squeaking tails, you drop traps, unleash your terriers, and swing sticks at the ones too slow to escape. On a good day, you catch dozens. On a bad day, you get bitten. And that's where the real danger lies. Every nip carries fleas, and every flea might carry plague. It's like gambling with your life, except the odds are terrible. Many rat catchers developed fevers and sores within weeks. Their career ending in the same mass graves they were hired to prevent. But when food shortages loomed, or when plague rats swarmed granaries, suddenly you were the hero. You got paid decently, sometimes better than farm laborers. Whole towns relied on you. Even as they mocked you, your work didn't end with catching. Disposal was part of the deal too. That meant dragging sacks of writhing vermin to bonfires and burning them in piles. Still, without you, infestation spread, food stores collapsed, and families starved. You were a thin, smelly line between survival and disaster. The pay might keep bread on your table, but the odds of reaching old age were slim. Your retirement plan, likely rabies, plague, or being buried in the same pits as your prey. Enjoyed these bizarre medieval jobs? Then don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more dark history. Share this with a friend, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stick around because stranger stories are still coming.